So I really don't know that much about you outside of your hypnotherapist.
Yeah,
I believe you mentioned you're a Virgo.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm a Taurus.
Taurus. I knew it was one of those. Okay. Taurus, and you have just a heart for the local community. And as soon as I heard hypnotherapist, I was like, we have to talk. We have to talk. So I'd love to hear kind of your origin story. Like, how did you, hypnotherapy is such a niche, like very,
Totally.
very niche. So how, Jill, did you find your way to hypnotherapy? What resonated with you?
Yeah. Hypnotherapy is a total niche. Um, and I love it. And it's something that kind of found me. I feel like it was kind of one of those things that I feel like I really didn't really have a choice other than to do it. I mean, of course, I had a choice, but it came in at a really formative time in my life. So I don't know if you remember, but we had a pandemic, a global pandemic a few years ago. Sometimes I forget. But I was living alone in Philadelphia. I had a roommate, but she, didn't stay with me in the apartment for most of the pandemic. So it was me and my cat, and I had a horrible, stressful job in the school district, but it was all trying to do it remote, and I was so stressed. My nervous system felt like just like a gnarled ball of like frayed wires. Like I was not well holistically. And I just remember like thinking to myself, like, if I get through this, because at that point I didn't know what the hell was happening. If I get through this, like I have to make some major changes. And so I spent a lot of time inside, as we all did. At least us in Philadelphia, we sure did. It was very strict. And I just read a lot of books and I was just looking for inspiration, motivation. And one of the books that I read was called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. And he's a psychotherapist that has really paved the way, I would say, for the benefits of past life regression therapy. And I read this book and I remember like crying, like having such a meaningful experience myself reading this book about his account of his first client where he had kind of spontaneously experienced this kind of work with his client in hypnosis, but also how it showed such rapid transformation in this person's healing. And he talked about the power of metaphor. And as a clinical analytical guy, he was having his own like spiritual awakening during this. And I've always been a very intuitive, sensitive, and like spiritual person myself. So it just gave me such meaning. And I remember Googling like, where's there a past life regression therapist near me? It was a pandemic in Philly, and still I think people were still learning how to come online and change their business. So couldn't find anything. I decided to move to Florida during the pandemic. My family lives here. Um, so in the summer of 2021, and after I got here, I shortly, like after, started looking for a therapist and reached out to people. No one got back to me. And then it was kind of serendipitous because I was on Instagram one day and I got all these notifications. And shout out to Tasha Love. She's a hypnotherapist out of Los Angeles. She was liking all these posts on my Instagram and I'd never met her before. Never, I was like, who is this? Click on her profile. She's a past life regression therapist. And I was like, oh,
Of
okay.
course. Of course.
I was like, okay. So I connect with her. We have a consultation. I'd never been hypnotized before. Um, and so we had a Zoom session. I sat in my bed. She hypnotized me via Zoom. And I had an incredibly like visual experience. And I had a very specific intention at that time. I was felt very lost and I felt very unmotivated. I could not connect to a feeling of confidence. I didn't know what it meant to feel accomplished. I was pretty low, sad girl era, big time. And I regressed back to this lifetime where um, I was a man that had kind of gone from being born on a plantation and, post or a boy born on a plantation after the emancipation of slaves in North Carolina. That's what I at least remembered and recalled in that regression, to like working in a bank and like having my own house and my own land, and just going through that emotional journey through that hour-long regression, which felt very real. I was like, oh, now I know what it feels like. And actually I can recall maybe that journey to that feeling, because I could relate to the apathy that I felt in the beginning of the regression to the overwhelm of emotion and gratitude at the end. And I remember after I came out of that session, I was like, I have to do this. I think I should do this. And asked Tasha where she went to school, HMI College in Los Angeles. I got it's an accredited university, and I took a year of training and got my certificate. I'm a clinical certified hypnotherapist now, and I don't actually promote past life regression therapy as much. I let those people find me, because that's kind of how I found it. I love to talk about it, but I just know how much this work is, the subconscious healing work, to one, not only learn how to regulate, most people don't even know what it feels like to feel relaxed or calm in their body,
Mm.
surprisingly. But it just is so transformative, and it's so peaceful, it feels so good. So I just love that I get to create that space for people, but it found me.
Well, I was going to say, I'm so glad that you brought that up because, like you said, I didn't know that you do the past life regression sessions. Like that's yeah, yeah,
It feels like something very special to me. And it's not that
sure,
I um I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about it all the time. And maybe I should talk about it more. Maybe this is a reminder to me, like, no, you should talk about it more. Let people know how important that is, because people might think like, well, how is that going to help me? You know, I mean, it's one thing to like experience your past life. That might be cool. I don't know, I guess. Some people are scared by it.
yeah,
But like it's really, I can't tell you clinically, as a clinical hypnotherapist, I can't tell you you're really experiencing a past life. I can't tell you that. I have no data to back that
yeah,
up. However, I
yeah,
do know that your mind is showing you a very powerful metaphor for, as a vessel for the healing and the question and the intention around why you would want to do that. And I've seen people in session have such profound like realizations and experiences, because when you can see yourself mirrored in another, because you in the session believe that's you, that's your soul in a previous life. I mean, you just realize how capable you are and how multifaceted you are and how you can do anything and you've done it before. you know? Like
yeah,
it's profound. It truly is. And it really can deepen your personal spiritual journey if that's something that you want to do.
yeah.
Have
And
you
I
ever-
feel like, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, have you ever been hypnotized?
So I think we briefly talked about this when we first met. So I actually did hypnobirthing. So I did it for all of my labors, all of my births, but then I also went on to teach it. So I'm nowhere near as certified as, never like nowhere near the clinical hours of like a year-long investment or anything like that. But I have a ton of hypnobirthing clients that I facilitated during prenatal sessions, and then throughout birth and everything like that. So part of it or part of the training involved obviously partaking in hypnosis, and I love it. I still prefer. I still find myself, if I can't take a nap or if I have like 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, I need to get in, get out, I need to sleep. I still go back to my my little hypnobirthing tracks and hit my deep sleep, and I'm able to come right back out without being angry. Because as you know, like when we're jerked out of these different brainwave states, it has such an effect on our body when it's not done properly. And as a mother with, at the time specifically, like with two little babies who need me all the time, I was like, rage, like just immediate rage if my naps got interrupted. But I'm like, you know what? Here's 15 minutes. Let's go deep and come back out in a controlled environment. And it was saved me a lot, a
Yes.
lot.
I love to hear people doing their self-hypnosis at home. That makes me so proud as a hypnotherapist. It's like the hardest thing for me to get clients to do consistently. but it's just so amazing. I love that.
But what I was going to mention, like with you talking about how, it hypnosis maybe, or not hypnosis, but like the previous life regressions and our sessions, it's not regression, is it? It's not regression because you're
It
not
is.
going.
It's a past life.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I was going to say that typically has a negative connotation. So that's why I was like, am I
Yeah.
using the right word? So, but with those sessions, I feel like hypnosis is such a, I mean, again, you want to talk about niche. Like I was a doula who, what the fuck is a doula? And then I offered childbirth education. Oh, wait, you're teaching me childbirth education. It's not in a hospital. And then the hypnobirthing component on top of that. So like niche, niche, niche. But I feel like it's the same thing with hypnosis. It's so niche that within that community, there is going to be tons of people, because that's actually something that's been on my radar is I want to find someone who does this. I would love to do this. So I'm glad that you talked about it because
Yeah. Thanks for
like I
inviting me.
because seriously, it's not just like, a part of our spiritual journey. Like I don't view it that way. I view it more or less as explaining why we chose to incarnate again. What
Yeah.
are we still trying to figure out? Not, I don't want to say like accomplish, but what are we still trying to navigate? What are we trying to, yeah, what have we already experienced and what are we wanting to experience in this lifetime?
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people with their experiences. I'm like, it's interesting how many of us were Cleopatra. It's interesting how many of us were like princesses in another era. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe you were, maybe.
Okay.
And
I was to say, maybe that's true.
yeah, absolutely. My thing is, I'm just like, I don't think that we were all living in the lap of luxury over and over and over and over and over again. And it'd be really interesting to see and experience, yeah, what,
I wish I
yeah,
was someone famous. All of my past lives that I've regressed to, um, were so not like fabulous, I guess. Not fabulous. But I guess that means I'll be a queen in this life. I have this
well,
life.
again, depending on how deep you want to go with conspiracy theories, all the famous people are all just spawned off DNA of themselves over and over and over again anyway. Like they're not soul encompassing people anyway. So it's like, oh, that tracks. Why none of us would actually have those experiences.
Actually, but actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, some of us read psychology books, some of us did conspiracy theories during the pandemic.
Oh, I was there with you. Don't worry, I went down many a YouTube rabbit hole
Yes,
um,
yes.
during the pandemic. So I love it so much. Um, yeah, I do love that. I love when people, I hear people claim to have been like royalty or something in a past life. I've actually never had that. I've had many clients who are for past life regression, and um, I don't know. It's interesting, the exploration of the mundane
Mm,
through past life regression. Not to say each life isn't precious and special and has
absolutely.
inherent powerful value to it, right? Um, I I'll speak about my own, but I had a past life regression where I remembered being a young man living on an Indian reservation in the 70s. And I lived by myself. I was estranged from my family through my own choices, and I was suffering from immense guilt and shame. And at the end of this life, I, you know, every past life regression, you're kind of guided to go to the last day of your life. And I saw myself, kind of laying on the bank of like a river. I had died of like alcohol poisoning. And that was a really interesting life. And in that life, past life regression, I had kind of my intention was to explore a challenging relationship in my life. And in that lifetime, it was this person was my little brother. who I had hurt as when I left home. I left him with abusive parents, and these were all like memories and images I was getting in my head as or my mind as I was being regressed. And because that relationship couldn't be solved in that lifetime, I succumbed to my woes. Um, and nothing really glamorous about that, but like a really devastating reality and truth, how people suffer from uh, addiction and things like that. But I also could feel the intensity of that emotion, right? The grief, the shame, the loneliness. Um, and it just like gives a very like poignant perspective. And I think part of the medicine of past life regression therapy is not only getting insight into your question, your intention. Like I said, I was exploring a dynamic of a challenging relationship I had in this life. Because if you believe in the soul, the eternal soul, and that we travel in soul groups, I could definitely recognize that person. I know that they recognize me, but there was clearly a underlying problem that didn't stem from really anything in this life. So what could it be? And I figured it out. But what the medicine was for me is it gave me compassion for myself and for others. Totally. Like, to understand the intricacies of certain dynamics and relationships because that energy transfers if it goes unresolved, in my opinion. So it was profound. And what it allowed me to do in this life is to let it go, to be compassionate, understanding of why maybe there's a challenge that isn't known to either of us, but just let it be and let it resolve as it will. So, infinite possibilities for healing through this. I had a client who was suffering from chronic back pain. And it was something that they had experienced in this life was chronic injuries to like the back and the spine. And it was so bizarre to her, like why it was always the same place or specifically injured. It just felt kind of like odd, and she was managing with pain and stress. So we did a few sessions of hypnosis, and then eventually she was open to past life regression. So we did it. And she went back to a life when she was a medieval soldier. And how she passed was she got stabbed in the back on the battlefield. And after that regression, she called me 3 weeks later and was like, "You'll never guess. I have so much relief in my back since our session. I can't even remember the pain if I try." I don't it was, like, kinda spooky, I'm getting chills, like, thinking about it right now, but, even something like chronic pain can be, which even in this lifetime, there were literal things that happened, physical things that she experienced, but to think that a regression session like that could support her mind to release past pain or kept pain is pretty profound.
For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
so wild. So wild. So yeah, I mean it does bring on like a spiritual path for sure, or this connection to something greater than yourself. But really it facilitates such like a meaningful relationship with yourself,
Mhm.
right? And knowing that you're dancing in the intricate web of all that is always.
So go ahead, if you don't mind, for like those of us, but for those who don't know that we are in different brainwave states at any given time throughout the day, um, and how hypnosis facilitates going into those different brainwave states. And I think the biggest thing that I came up against with hypnosis was like, well, you're going to make me do something stupid. You're going to make me this, you're going to make me that. And are you going to take you're going to take my wallet? Like, is that how you make all your money? It's like, okay. So if you
I
could,
I do. I really do love it. I love the haters. I really do. Because I don't blame them. And what they're doing is really illustrating a really important point about hypnosis, that we so strongly are suggestible, meaning like I guess what can I think of? my own vocabulary. When we are suggestible to the information that's given to us, right? We're more likely to accept information. We believe that something like hypnosis is meant to, like, like snake oil, like I'm a shyster, right? Or because you think of all of the hypnosis posters in like the 20s and the 30s with like a man with a turban and like lightning bolts coming out of his fingers, right? It's used for entertainment, right? People, are you gonna make me cluck like a chicken? I'm not a stage hypnotherapist, yeah, hypnotist, right? Um, but it has been and can be used as a spectacle, mind control, right? That's how it's been advertised. So there's a very real association and stigma to it because that has been painted that way. And so that's what lives in the back of some people's minds. And I think I have a great responsibility to help people understand how therapeutic this is. But what hypnosis does, what hypnosis facilitates is a connection to like a deeper alpha and theta wave. So it's similar to like a state that you feel when you're meditating. It's that between waking consciousness and sleep. So when we are right now talking, chatting about life, we're in that beta state. We're able to exercise critical thinking, decision making, exercising our logic, and we have things accessible to us, things that we know we can process information rapidly. And then the delta, which is deep sleep, um, hypnosis is kind of that bridge that connects these two, um, allowing the alpha and theta state of mind to be activated. So in hypnosis, I basically override your critical thinking mind in beta by talking your ear off and getting people to relax and to just continue to raise their awareness of their experience they're having in their body and how it's connected to the experience they're having in their mind. So when people come to me for hypnotherapy, I'm creating that controlled environment for them to relax and to go into that hypnotic meditative like state, and you experience the state naturally. Hypnosis is not witchcraft. It's not anything crazy. It's you experience hypnosis, this state of hypnosis, in the 30 minutes after you wake up in the morning. You experience it in the 30 minutes before you fall asleep because you're between waking consciousness and sleep. And so that critical mind starts to fade, it starts to relax, and you're able to access that subconscious space more, which is why it's so important to be mindful of how you start your day and how you end your day and the kind of information and stimulus you're consuming, because you're in that natural hypnotic state, you're more likely to believe what you're learning and being told in that time, right? So I know I can't watch scary movies before bed. Mommy's gonna have nightmares,
It's
right?
funny that you went there because I went to like the grandparents and the parents of our generation who watch the news right before bed.
Yeah, right? That too, like,
Yeah.
you can really, create anxiety, and even if you're not consuming information necessarily that you're gonna hold on to, it's the physical state that you also create. You also experience hypnosis through, honestly, institutions are set up to hypnotize you. The way churches are set up, or schools, movie theaters, right? There are hypnotic modalities that are taken into account as you set up that space. Especially, let's think about a church, for example. All of the pews are facing the front. You have a figure in authority standing in front, giving the speech. Everything is controlled. There's incense, there's music, all of your senses are stimulated. And similar with a movie theater, right? Everyone's in a dark room, huge screen, loud music. The point is to get you really engaged into the experience that you're having. Um, those are just some examples. But even when you're driving to a familiar place, too. Have you ever zoned
Yeah.
out when you drive to
I was going to say that's
work?
my favorite example is getting to your destination. You're like, how did I get here?
Yeah,
I know I drove, but I don't remember taking those turns. How are we still alive?
yeah. We go into autopilot. We're having like, and it's not that you're not conscious, you're very conscious. Like when you're in hypnosis, you're very conscious of your environment still. You can probably still hear the birds outside, you can hear me talking, you can hear someone walking in the hallway or, whatever. But you are just having a really deep inner experience. I know when I'm driving in my car, I have a rich inner life, Audrey. So I definitely go and I am indulging in my own experience in my mind as I'm driving. Um, and it doesn't mean that I'm not conscious, but it's very clear that some drivers on the road are in another world. Uh,
Especially in Florida. Yes.
I'm like, ooh. I actually have clients sometimes that I need to dehypnotize them before I hypnotize them because they're in such a state of chronic overwhelm and uh, they are highly suggestible. So like stress can actually hypnotize you in a way as well, because hypnosis actually in a therapeutic setting, my goal is to overwhelm your critical mind, right? So that you kind of have to let go and release and go into that state of hypnosis. And some people walk around this world hypnotized because they are overstimulated and by stress, by, you know, and I also find this with my intuitive pals. They think that they're anxious and like crazy and whatever. I'm like, no, you're overstimulated and chronically in a state of hypnosis. That's what it is. So I have to actually teach people how to dehypnotize themselves so that they can really, what the point of this work is to help people understand how much that they're in control of their experience. And a lot of people don't always realize that because they're so chronically overwhelmed.
Well, on that same thread, I'm glad that you brought that particular part up because for me, some of the scripts that like specifically like kind of little teasers to show, look, you're not going to go to a bad place was you know, a script that involved putting your hand inside a bucket of ice. And for me, I grew up in Canada and cannot stand to be cold, period. So my mind automatically clicked and switched it as I was hearing the words, as we were going through the exercise. My mind just automatically replaced it with a bucket of warm water.
Mhm.
My mind knew what my physical body likes and doesn't like, and my mind was always there to protect me, or my me as a being is survival. So cold bad, warm good,
Yeah.
and it automatically switched it to keep me, but as a form of self-preservation, more or less. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, like, you know, you're always in control. It's just you're a beautiful facilitator to help bridge that gap and do it quickly. And I think you said it
Yeah.
beautifully, in a controlled and therapeutic environment.
Yeah. I think the most important part of my job is to help people realize like your mind loves you so much. It gives me chills thinking about it. Like your mind, your brain literally loves you so much. I have people come to me frequently that want help like remembering trauma that they can't remember the past. Like, I can't remember my childhood. Can you help me remember? And I'm like, no, because your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It is scabbing over parts of your life that you don't need to remember. You don't. You don't need to go there. You don't need to go back. You already knew it was not great. So you don't need the details. Um, and that's one benefit of your brain. Literally, that's protective. Um, and two, like just giving people the opportunity to create the space in their mind, to literally create a space in their mind visually, imagine it. You can go there, that's your happy place. Like that is like the number one tool I teach people is go to your sacred space and hear your wise and loving voice because it's there. You just need to remember what it sounds like. Like your mind helps you create that environment because everyone deserves to love spending time in their brain. Your mind actually can and should, in my opinion, be a beautiful place to be. Sometimes it's challenging. Sometimes we have, or maybe a lot of times, we have challenging thoughts, right? Mental health is a huge topic of discussion where sometimes we don't feel like we have control over the quality of our thoughts and how we feel about ourselves and the quality of our emotions, but we truly do when we allow ourselves the opportunity to observe the experience we have and ask ourselves, Do I want to feel this way? Is this serving me? What is the root of this? Can I let this go and choose how I want to feel? And this modality of healing, hypnotherapy, really allows you to, one, learn how to relax and feel really, really calm and relax and feel good. Two, to create the space within your mind as you want on your terms, to turn up the volume of that inner wise and loving voice within, so that you have now these tools that you can use when you feel your thoughts ruminating on negative or old patterns and thoughts. But the greatest tool I think that this work does, it teaches us how to be a really powerful, compassionate, and wise and loving observer of our thoughts and our emotions. We are not our thoughts. We are not our emotions. They are like clouds passing in the sky, and we are the observer. And we can make really empowered choices on which emotions and thoughts we want to put our energy toward. Um, when people feel like they don't have control and the negative thoughts take over, I mean, yeah, it causes major anxiety and stress, depression, sad girl moments. But it's all temporary, and I think that the self-love component of this work is really tremendous. Yeah, it's really helped me personally so much in that area.
Because you've mentioned this a couple times about like having to dehypnotize.
Yeah.
I think that also plays in a lot of, and specifically you mentioning I want to go back to my childhood. What people don't realize is, like, specifically in my realm of how I've used hypnotherapy, is children are in hypnotic states until the age of 7. Like, they're in these altered state of consciousness where they are literally being programmed from conception all the way through 7, the highly, highly, highly programmable states. So when you go back to those states, that's where you're able to put in the I hate using these terminologies because they're very like computer geeky, but it's like it's where you're able to put in like the new software. It's where you're able to reprogram all of these thoughts that maybe we all weren't, and I'm by no means pedestaling myself as a perfect parent, but a lot of us didn't have conscious parents. A lot of us didn't have loving caregivers in our lives. And a lot of the coping mechanisms that we have is all from a state of survival. And so I think that's a beautiful way that we're able to get back to those altered states in an intentional way. Because like you said, we're in these states all day, all day throughout, throughout the day. But when we're able to utilize this as a tool with the intention of, oh, I don't have to do this anymore. I can choose to do this, and here's a way that I can reestablish some healthy coping mechanisms and some healthy ways to address a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when we're born onto this earth, we're born with two fears innately. Our nervous system responds to the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. That's it. That means everything else we've learned to be afraid of or attracted to is learned. It's learned. And yeah, to your point exactly, like children are like sponges. And it's not until about 7, 8, 9 years old that we're actually starting to develop our critical mind filter, which really allows us to think critically and consciously. And now, we have what, like, honestly, 88% of our mind's capacity to hold information lies in the subconscious. That means we really only have access to 12%. Which is incredible. Um,
And that's where we spend most of our days.
yeah, in the 12%, just making decisions, thinking logically, duping around. But hypnosis really allows us to access a deeper well of information. But yeah, that childlike hypnosis, inner child work is probably one of my favorite things to do with hypno clients, and it helps, much like past life regression therapy, inner child work. The scripts that I use specifically are just a powerful metaphor to help you connect with that sense of self and to reparent yourself and guide yourself and to kind of like amend some of the challenges that you might have had in the past, knowing that we can't go back in time and really change anything or take it back, but it's in the healing, in the re-parenting, reprogramming that happens. Yeah, and it's a great way to let people remember how much they are in control. Yeah, amazing work. I love. I think everyone should have hypnotherapist. Just plugging that. And
No, but for real, for
I
real.
but also like even in my journey as a small business owner, like it's kind of re directing my approach with hypnotherapy, and really focusing on entrepreneurs and small business owners and creatives because I've had to do hella work on my subconscious to get out of my own way when it comes to feeling successful and accomplished on this journey in small business and entrepreneurship, which, work in progress, but at least I'm feeling more empowered these days than I was when I first started. So, um,
But, and I think so many entrepreneurs forget the fact that all you have to do is just help someone not drown. Like that's you just have to be one step ahead of somebody. That's it. That's all.
that's it.
That's all. I don't pretend to have everything figured out. I don't pretend that but I know more than you do. Like client who's coming to me, I know more than you do. I've embodied more than you have. I've already accomplished these goals that you're looking at. So yeah, let me show you how to do that. And then when we've hit our spot, okay, great, bless you and release you onto your next part of the journey.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so many of us think that we all have to have our stuff figured out before we can help someone else. It's like, no,
we're building the plane
if
as quiet.
exactly, exactly.
If anyone thinks I have my shit together, you thought I'm just a nerd. That's it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful. It's really powerful, and it helps with. I mean, who doesn't want to feel like more in control of their life? Um,
Yeah. Or at least the illusion of control. Yeah.
right? I mean, control. The only thing we have control over is the quality of our thoughts and our emotions, and
Yeah.
we want to direct those, and then our actions in response to it. That's really it.
Yeah.
And so, if you can also accept that, then it also kind of takes stress away because
Yeah.
well, if you control the other stuff, then I guess I shouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Okay, so you've mentioned chronic health, you've mentioned entrepreneurs, small business owners. So who primarily are you finding resonance with? Like who listening to this is like, yeah, let me hit Jill up because I want to do this stuff. Who are you seeing more resonance with and who are you calling in as clients at this point?
Yeah. I find that at Ritual Space, which is my office, we are a wellness space and movement studio. I have access to just so many women trying to create and sustain their business, their dream, their creative goals. And I have been thriving, honestly, connecting with those women. It's a powerful mirror to me in those sessions um, because they're talking about things I also think about. We're helping each other through these goals. Because I have access to women, female entrepreneurs who are really just striving and carving out time in their lives to build their business and create and connect. These are the people that I connect with mostly, and so I feel really inspired connecting and serving them through hypnotherapy because they also are a powerful mirror back to me in those sessions. And so I really get therapy out of it too when we're in space together. Um, it's just been really helpful and empowering. I also really enjoy um, I really enjoy like all of my clients. I had recently a smoking cessation client and I had a little attitude about doing it because I was like, oh, smoking cessation doesn't like fuel my fire, but also like but I was able to help someone quit smoking, and that ultimately benefited their complete holistic wellness, and that was why they came. And I think when people really are devoted to making those changes in their lives for their betterment, and when clients come in as excited and into this process and like determined to change as I am to help them, that's when I feel really good. Because I've had clients before, they're like, this is like my last resort. I guess I'll try it. My therapist told me to do it. And they show up and I have to like prove to them what it is that we're doing, you know? It kind of takes it out for both of us. Like if you don't really believe that this is gonna work, then it's not gonna work because this is all about mindset. You know what I mean? So, honestly, if anyone is just really passionate in their goals and wanting to change for the better, then I'm like, let's whatever you want to do, let's freaking do it. But I truly love serving my community of small business owners here, because we have created just like this little hive of creatives, and it's a really beautiful and meaningful space.
I was going to use that word exactly. I was like, it is such a beautiful hive that you have created. Like, absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and even in, regardless of hypno sessions, I feel like I'm using my hypno hat. I'm wearing it now, but my hypno training has really just integrated into all parts of my life. It impacts how I listen to people, it impacts how I speak, the language that I use, and I pick up on how other people learn and communicate and how I need to communicate with them. So it really hypnotherapy in general, hypnosis in general has helped me be a more conscious companion collectively to people. But also because I'm so motivated and connected to the collective. I'm an 11th house sun. And I think that 11th house in astrology rules the collective. And I'm also 11th house moon, both in Taurus. So I love I am at home with others. And so I just find immense joy in this space. It's really been a blessing for me to be able to be a part of the opening of virtual space and to bring in the right people, including yourself. You've been a part of this too.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Uh, I want to respect our time, your time. Uh, I am going to have all of your contact information, all the ways that people can get in touch with you, listed in the show notes for this episode. But if there's any final words of wisdom, final thought, as it were, matriarchal medicine that you have to share, yeah, what would you like to end this session on?
Surround yourself with badass babes that want to support your goals and your overall wellness. Um, Being around women, conscious women, is medicine. We need those powerful mirrors to each other about our own capabilities and abilities to succeed and feel accomplished and to be well and to love the journey, to love ourselves, because sometimes it's hard. Hypnotherapy is wonderful mind medicine. So definitely consider doing it, even if it's just through guided meditation. It really can just be so transformative. And it doesn't take very long for you to see really lasting results. So take care of that mind. Yeah, that would be my message.
Thank you so much for this conversation and for bringing your wisdom to this platform.
Oh my
Immense
gosh,
gratitude.
thank you for inviting me. This is awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like you
I
said, surround yourself with badass babes.
That's really it. That's a wrap.
Yeah,
Period. That's the whole lesson of today.
exactly. When women gather, magic happens for sure.
Truly, we're all witches.